Jonathan Everett had recently been appointed CEO of Luminary Dynamics, an innovative tech powerhouse that had skyrocketed to prominence over the past few years. However, before officially stepping into his new role, Jonathan was determined to understand the company's true culture, particularly among its hiring managers, who were instrumental in upholding Luminary's core values of inclusion and excellence. Jonathan wasn't new to adversity. Throughout his career, he'd encountered subtle forms of prejudice disguised as professionalism. This time, he intended to uncover the truth himself. To do so, he devised a plan. He would arrive at Luminary's headquarters not as its CEO, but as an applicant for a junior software analyst position. Adding a layer of complexity, he would arrive in a wheelchair, playing the part of someone with a physical disability. The headquarters of Luminary Dynamics was alive with activity that day, bustling with job seekers clutching resumes and rehearsing interview answers. Jonathan entered quietly, wheeling himself across the sleek lobby floor. None of the other candidates or staff paid him much attention as he joined the line of hopeful applicants. "Elliot Parker?" A voice called out. Jonathan turned to see a woman in her late 30s with sharp features and an air of impatience. Her name tag read Cynthia Reynolds, the HR lead overseeing the interviews that day. As Jonathan wheeled up to her, Cynthia's brows furrowed ever so slightly. "That's me," Jonathan said, offering a polite smile. Cynthia's eyes flicked to the wheelchair, and her expression shifted into a mask of poorly concealed skepticism. She didn't return his smile or his offered handshake, instead glancing at her clipboard. "You're here for the software analyst position?" she asked, her tone carrying a mix of disbelief and condescension. "Yes, ma'am," Jonathan replied evenly. Cynthia murmured, barely hiding her smirk. "Well, I hope you understand that this is a very demanding role. Fast-paced, high stakes. Not exactly a job for someone with," she hesitated, "limitations." The word hung in the air, sharp and cutting. Jonathan's face remained impassive, but inside, he made note of every dismissive glance and condescending word. "I assure you," Jonathan replied calmly, "I have the skills and experience necessary for the role." Cynthia chuckled, the sound hollow and derisive. "Do you now? Well, I suppose we could waste a few minutes, but honestly, you might want to consider something more suitable for your situation." The other candidates nearby exchanged awkward glances. Some looked away and comfortable, while others stifled nervous chuckles. Cynthia, however, seemed unfazed, continuing her thinly veiled insults until finally concluding, "Why don't you save yourself the trouble and head out? This position's not for everyone." Jonathan nodded politely and wheeled himself toward the exit, noting how none of Cynthia's colleagues intervened. As he left the building, a faint smile played on his lips. He'd seen enough. Later that afternoon, Jonathan sat in his office, no longer in disguise. The experience was fresh in his mind, and he reflected on the culture that had allowed someone like Cynthia to operate unchecked. This was exactly why he had chosen to undertake this undercover mission. A knock at the door broke his train of thought. His assistant, Megan, stepped in. "Sir, it's time for the staff introduction," she said with a grin. The company had been eagerly awaiting the announcement of their new CEO. Jonathan straightened his tie and smiled. "Perfect. Let's go." The introduction was held in the company's expansive auditorium, packed with employees. Cynthia and her HR team sat near the front, chatting casually. They were unaware that the man Cynthia had dismissed hours earlier was about to be introduced as their new boss. The outgoing CEO, Michael Everett, Jonathan's older brother, took the stage. Michael had built Luminary Dynamics from the ground up, and his presence commanded respect. "Ladies and gentlemen," Michael began, It is my pleasure to introduce a leader who embodies the principles Luminary was founded on: innovation, fairness, and respect. Please join me in welcoming our new CEO, my brother, Jonathan Everett. The room erupted into applause as Jonathan stepped onto the stage. Cynthia's smile froze as recognition dawned. Her face turned pale as she realized that Elliot Parker was none other than the man now standing in front of her, dressed in a sharp suit and exuding authority. Jonathan's gaze swept over the crowd, lingering briefly on Cynthia. He began, "Thank you for the warm welcome. I am truly honored to join Luminary Dynamics and work alongside all of you. Today, I want to talk about the values that define this company: respect, inclusivity, and integrity." He paused, letting his words resonate. Earlier today, he continued, "I had the opportunity to experience our hiring process firsthand. I came here as a candidate, not as your CEO, but as someone seeking an opportunity. I wanted to see if Luminary was the place I believed it to be." The room grew tense as murmurs rippled through the audience. Cynthia shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her colleagues casting nervous glances her way. "To my disappointment," Jonathan said, his tone steady, "I encountered prejudice, dismissiveness, and a lack of respect, not just from one person, but from a culture that allowed such behavior to go unchecked." He looked directly at Cynthia. "This company will not tolerate discrimination of any kind. Every individual who walks through our doors deserves respect and a fair chance to prove themselves." The audience erupted in applause, energized by Jonathan's firm stance. Cynthia's face burned with humiliation as Jonathan's words struck home. After the meeting, Cynthia was summoned to Michael's office, where Jonathan awaited her. She entered hesitantly, her confidence shattered. "Cynthia," Jonathan began, "do you understand why you're here?" "I was just doing my job," she stammered. "Your job," Jonathan replied, "is to represent this company's values. Instead, you dismissed a candidate based on assumptions and treated them with blatant disrespect." "That is unacceptable," Michael added. "We cannot allow this kind of behavior to undermine the culture we've worked so hard to build. Effective immediately, your employment with Luminary Dynamics is terminated." Cynthia's shoulders slumped as she realized there was no room for negotiation. She left quietly, the door clicking shut behind her. For Jonathan, the day marked the beginning of a new chapter for Luminary Dynamics. His mission wasn't just about addressing individual wrongs, but about transforming the company's culture into one where everyone, regardless of their background or abilities, could thrive. And so, Luminary Dynamics became a beacon of hope, proving that integrity and respect were the true foundations of success. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring tales. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.